Hello everybody, my name is Will Stewart. I've never actually done YouTube videos. This is my kind of debut, I guess. I just wanted to show everybody a few of my favorite woods knives and bushcraft knives. They're mostly Scandinavian grinds. There is one convex grind that's snuck its way in, but I know some people kind of wonder about, you know, what's a good knife at a certain price point. It's a pretty common question that we have on the forums, so I thought I'd go ahead and share a few of my favorites and just start with the cheapest and work our way up. The first is just the everyday ubiquitous Mora. It's a 510. The number 1 is another common one. The number 2, some of the Craftsman line are pretty common. I've used this one quite a lot, and it's been a really good knife. The handle's not as big as I would like, but it's still pretty large compared to, well, probably the number 1. And it's also got the longer tang, which I don't really care about so much for things like batoning, even though it does give you a little more comfort. But it does kind of give it a little bit of heft in the handle and helps with the balance. This is it in hand. I've got, I think, a little bit larger hands, or maybe just longer fingers than maybe the most common people, which makes knife comfort harder to come by for me, but this is still pretty good. I went ahead and laid out a ruler just so everyone could see exactly how long it is, give everyone some scale. This one's almost exactly 8 inches overall in length. The thickness at the most is, you know, roughly 3/4, probably a shade under, but it's a good blade. It's good and sharp. Actually very sharp. I've cut myself more times than I would care to say on this knife. And it's carbon steel instead of stainless, which I'm a big fan of personally. It's one of those little voodoo things. It's not really science. They just seem to feel better to me. But it's a great knife, and it's only $10. My favorite place to get them is probably Ragnar at ragweedforge.com, and then Ben's Backwoods has a good selection as well. Both are great people and good to deal with. This is another Mora, sporting a particularly cool sheath. This was made by a guy on blade forums named Kia, and he does some really fantastic work. This is some of the best fit and finish on Kydex that I've ever seen, and some really very cool paint job that he's put on it for me. He also had my name put on it. It's kind of underneath the belt clip, so it's hard to see. But this is the Mora 2000, which is another pretty common bushcraft knife, I think. It's got a broader blade than the 510 and also a little bit longer. The handle is certainly a bit you know, taller, a bit wider, but not necessarily that much more thick. Kind of see those. I've put a little bit of tape on the front of this just because, like I said, I got long fingers, and it gets a little thin up top with on the handle on the 2000, so I like to wrap it in tape and give myself a bigger grip. It's got kind of a hybrid design. It's, you know, pretty Scandi straight up for this first, say, 2/3. It turns into kind of a flat grind with a secondary bevel. But the bottom line with this one is it is a mean slicer. This is just a fantastic knife for, you know, just general cutting efficiency and cutting through wood, and really makes a good kitchen knife too. A friend of mine that I lent this to once mentioned that it was probably the best bread knife he'd ever used, so I've got him hooked up with one of those. That was actually Hollow Dweller on the forums. But also a great blade. It's got a little more weight to it than the 510, just a little bit, and also a pretty long tang. My understanding from various x-ray images is that it comes to about right here or so. But it's a great knife. This is only $30. I believe it's also available at both the websites I mentioned a moment ago, and it's just a great blade. It's got a rubbery grip. Some people think it looks like maybe puke or a turtle or a Ninja Turtle. I like the Ninja Turtle metaphor the most, I think. But it's a good strong blade. It's got a nice grip, very, you know, full-size feel to it. So if you feel like the 510 is maybe a little diminutive for you, I think that's a very nice step up to go to the 2000. The next price point up is probably going to be this guy. This is definitely a newcomer to my user rotation. This is made by Brendan Gausvik, or Barbophobic on blade forums. This is a Scandi grind that he uses, and I think these are the Lori blades. They're really nice, you know, stick tang carbon steel that he picks up. They come with a slight secondary bevel, but that's mainly up front, the secondary bevel. Out back, towards the end of the blade here, or beginning of the blade here, it was it's still pretty good. I didn't have to do much work on this thing with a stone to get it up to par. I did flatten out the spine just a little bit for use with a fire steel. Becomes, well, just not very sharp, a little bit rounded. But all of that's not to do at all with Brendan, who did the handle work mainly. It's really beautiful wood. It's also very thick. You can see he's got a nice little brass bolster. He's hammered, or he's pinned this down at the butt so it's secure. It's a full length tang, obviously not full tang showing on the wood. But it's a good little handful. It's a good knife. A nice kind of egg shape, oval shape handle to it. This might even be big for some people, but it makes for really comfortable extended carving sessions. It's also comfortable in a wide variety of grips. This is also about 8 inches flat. Certainly a great bushcraft knife. This is the sheath, which might be the most impressive portion of it, actually. He does some really neat work. It's built around a plastic liner and just some pretty traditional Nordic design, but he's kind of added a few of his own things. The belt loop is really neat. At first I thought, maybe it looked a little thin, not so secure, but it's thick enough that I'm not worried about it, and it's well secured on either side with the double stitched areas. He's also got another neat addition, which kind of brings it into this century, I suppose, with a fire steel loop. This is a metal fire steel that I've stuck back here, but it's kind of nice, keeps it out of the way on your belt. It's not an eyesore for the traditionalists out there, but a nice deep pouch sheath, good security, good feeling in the hand. You can email him for prices. I think I paid roughly $60 for this, but it's just been a good knife, and I think that's a great value considering what it costs to put together these individual elements between the leather liner blade, the wood, the various fittings, and all the time for the sheath work. I've done a bit of sheath work, and all I know about it is that my fingers hurt for a long time afterwards.